welcome to the Lasso The Moon Podcast. I'm Bryce McCracken.
I'm Wyatt VanDyke.
I'm singing happy birthday.
And your name?
Brett Redshaw.
Beautiful. That's my friend Brett Redshaw. How we doing, boys?
Very good. We just saw a really good movie.
It's the start of summer. I'm having a great time.
Wyatt and I had a very cute little date today. Driving all around the city. I got to drive a U-Haul truck. It was a great day.
It was
had
lovely.
Some coffee.
Windows down, Chance the Rapper over the river. What more can you ask for, you know?
Truly.
You're lucky I already sang once, or I would do the Chance screech into this microphone right now.
You still can.
Yeah!
No, that was not it.
That's
I used to be able, when I listened to Chance a lot more, I used to be able to get it down very well. It was one of my better impressions.
I actually can confirm that is true. I've heard it before. It used to be fire, and now it's not.
No, I'll work on it for next time.
Thank you. We're going to be talking about Tick, Tick, Boom, a 2021 film directed by Lin Manuel Miranda. This is a movie that Brett actually introduced me to in the year 2021, the year of our Lord.
Not a lot of times I get in on the ground floor before Bryce on things.
Do you remember how you found this? Was it just like on your Netflix recommended?
I think I just remembered people talking about it, and I wanted to know what was going on. Like, it was getting pushed by Netflix
This was
a lot.
a particularly big release, if I recall correctly. Also, these dogs are really fucking loud.
It should be okay. I don't think they'd be picked up, but worst case scenario, they're picked up.
If they do, we have a little friends along the
That's
ride
true.
with us.
If you can hear the dogs, and this is still in the final recording of the podcast, hello dogs.
There's the dogs and Wyatt just trying to get out.
Yeah, Wyatt, I think you're right. This was pushed pretty heavily. Although I don't think when Brett introduced it to me, it was. This got some like moderate Oscar buzz, especially around Andrew Garfield's performance. So it definitely was getting a lot of push near the end of its life cycle. I think Brett just got on the ground floor early, and I remember he was like, "Hey Bryce, you gotta watch this movie, Tick, Tick, Boom. It's really good." And I saw it was a musical, and despite what you'll hear from me throughout the next hour or so of this podcast, I'm not usually that into movie musicals. And also saw that it was directed by Lin Manuel Miranda, and I was in the heat of my Lin Manuel Miranda slander era at the time, and I have more thoughts about him.
You used to not be able to go a day without mentioning the raw Lin Manuel Miranda Hamilton tapes.
Yeah.
Which are really funny.
Yeah, I'll talk more about Lin in a second, but yeah, I was like very hesitant to watch this movie, and then I think I started to see that it was getting some conversations about potentially getting nominated, and I was like, fine, I'll watch this movie. And 2021 was a particularly bad year for movies, and I gave it a shot, and I loved this movie. Which is not to say that it's that great of a movie. Well, I particularly have a lot of flaws with it, and I'm sure you both will likely have a few flaws as well. But this is certainly not a perfect movie, but I do love this movie. I think that what it does well, it does very well, and there's like a heartbeat to this movie that I really connect with. And so this is actually like the third time I've watched this movie, I think. I saw it after Brett recommended it by myself. Actually, while I had COVID. It was in my like 3 movies a day binge when I had COVID that first time. Thank you, Brett, for infecting me with that disease.
I remember bringing you, I believe it was Taco Bell with Daisy and Grace when that happened.
You did do that. Much
Shout
appreciated. And I showed it to my family again, and then this instance.
Oh, if that's the case, I didn't know you watched it with your family. I did not know about that. If that is the case, then this would actually make it 4 times.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because do you remember the last time that we watched it together?
No, I do not.
This is pretty funny. We were watching Dazed and Confused.
And I completely forgot about this.
And we watched it very, very late. I believe on a weeknight. We all had work the next day. We watched Dazed and Confused, which was another amazing movie. And rather than turning the TV off at like 2:00 in the morning, Bryce was like, "Hey, Brett and Colleen, my partner, let's watch the first 5 minutes of Tick, Tick, Boom. I just want you to see that."
I knew what I was doing.
Knowing that the second that the 5 minutes had passed, we were just going to continue watching that movie. I was so goddamn tired the next day because I went to bed at 4:00 in the morning and was at work at 8.
That's my bad. But it speaks to how much I enjoy this movie.
It sucked us in. I couldn't stop watching it.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. Brett, I know you like this movie. What do you like about it in particular?
There's a lot to really enjoy about it. I think that it captures a particular whimsical feeling in me. I'm not quite as quirky as the main character, but
Agree to disagree.
You think I am as quirky as the main character? There was one scene, one interaction between Andrew Garfield and somebody else that you were like, that's so Brett. When he was particularly weird, and I was like, hey man, it hurts a little bit, but you're probably correct. I really enjoy the story is amazing. I think the editing is surprisingly good in this movie.
It's unique, and I'll talk about it.
Yeah. I think that it captures a feeling, and I was going to talk about this a little bit in the synopsis about like what it means to get older. Coming of age is a really important genre for me, or like style of storytelling. What I feel when I watch the movie and the way that I relate to it is something that I enjoy a lot.
Wyatt, I know you're not as in love with this movie as the two of us are. What were your thoughts after watching it?
I get that beautiful role for what feels like the 9th straight podcast episode where I get to be the negative voice, which I don't love this role, but I seem to have taken it on. But I mean, it's just, it's a fine movie. It's a movie that's not made for me, and I'm well aware of that. I don't think my opinion on whether it's a good or bad movie holds any relevance, because I'm not its target audience by any means. I like the story in the sense of someone pursuing like their passions, even when it seems that they should stop. I think that sticking true to yourself is an important concept, and it's a good instance of showing how that can pay off or not pay off, rather. But I love 4 musicals in this world. La La Land.
That actually feels high.
La La Land, and then all 3 High School Musicals.
Oh, there you go. Great take.
So I know going into this that there wasn't going to be a super high. Like, I was not going to come out of this like, oh my God, my world has changed. I love Andrew Garfield. This felt like watching this movie, especially with you two, feels like when you're standing in a room and there's a group of people who are very well established and they're sharing inside jokes, and then someone just kind of like kicks one out and they're like, oh, so the background here is there's like multiple scenes where there was a bunch of people around, and one of the two you would have to like spoon feed me the information. So it's like, I feel like the movie kind of has to be dumbed down to my level because it's not something that I would usually choose.
At one point, Wyatt said, I'm going to force both of you to watch a film with incredibly niche baseball facts.
I will
and that
find
really sums
something.
it up.
Yeah, I'll find something. But either way, it was a movie.
That's fine.
I also want to comment on the way that I feel about Guy, who wants to give all of his time to everybody else, but also can't stop keeping it to himself. Heavy relate.
You're a big dive straight into something and commit to it real hard type of guy.
Yeah, but also wants to live a bohemian lifestyle with all of my friends. Yeah.
Shout out the Bohemian Lifestyle. That's
one of the best songs.
Yeah. And we'll get there. Brett, you said something that I liked. You mentioned this is
me?
Yeah, you did.
Me?
You did. You mentioned this is sort of a coming of age movie.
He's turning 30, you know.
He's turning 30. This almost feels like, I don't want to say the fallout after a coming of age, but there's almost a coming of age story in there somewhere where he's this kid growing up outside New York City and he wants to pursue his passions, and then he gets to New York and that's the end of the story. And this is sort of like what the fallout of that actually is and how difficult that lifestyle that people idolize is.
This is canonically a sequel to Lady Bird after she gets to New York for college.
And so there's a lot of like heartbreak to this. And Brett, I should have had you do this earlier, but can you tell our listeners what this movie actually is about? We've mentioned it's Andrew Garfield, directed by Lin Manuel Miranda, but what's going on here?
Sure thing. I'm here for you listeners. I'm
Blow
the
him a
voice.
kiss.
Okay.
That one's just for the viewers.
I'm in a polyamorous relationship with every single viewer that is into this podcast. So Tick Tick Boom follows the life of Jonathan Larson, quirked up but straight musical theater guy, eventual writer of Rent. He is in his... Sorry, the dog started screaming outside.
It sounded like a
Like
dog was
people
attacking
screaming.
another dog.
Yeah. Jonathan Larson is creating what he thinks is going to be this big breakout musical. It's called Superbia. Cool, hyper pop synthwave musical. It's groundbreaking. Everybody's going to love it.
Gonna change musical theater.
It's going to change musical theater, which he says multiple times. Like, he thinks that he's really hot shit. And he is going through the stresses of balancing creating this musical, putting the finishing touches on it when he's chronically plagued by procrastination and writer's block. He's also facing multiple obstacles, such as balancing this with his friendships and relationships, treating people well. He has a million people to please while also running a diner that is taking a lot of his attention. It's also in the middle of the AIDS crisis, where most of his friends are queer and they are having a unique trial through that, and he is seeing all of that happen from the outside. So it is a lot of like anxiety-inducing. How are we going to get through the end of it? All in the journey to get to where he eventually ends up.
The boom, if you will.
Some would say.
I had a thought while watching this movie that I had not had before, where I was like, in a different world, this could be a Christopher Nolan movie. The obsession with time,
Yeah.
and Nolan has even used like the ticking that this movie uses to sort of like create that element of like, we're building to something, you're running out of time, all leading up to this like big moment. And this movie does a fun little twist on what that big moment actually is. But it felt very Nolan-esque if Nolan were to ever make a not particularly suspenseful or action-packed drama musical.
That's another main theme of the film is time, and like we said earlier, coming of age literally, because he's about to be 30. It's the biggest deal in the world. Something that I'm terrified of as a guy who's not 25 yet.
As a guy who's about to be 30.
It feels like it sometimes. I mean, time is completely out the window at this point. Yeah.
Is it even real?
COVID got it all fucked up, I'll tell you what. So yeah, that's the gist.
Yeah. I like what you said about, this is a classic Bryce ADHD moment.
You forget what you were about to say right now.
What was the last thing you were talking about?
He's turning 30.
Oh, yeah. This movie's obsession with like, or I guess more specifically, Jonathan Larson's obsession with I'm running out of time is something that I think we all kind of experience, especially like in this increasingly more existential world where we all feel like we have to be doing something with our time. And Jonathan Larson's character is comparing everything that he's doing to all of the great predecessors of musical theater that all had their breaks before they turned 30. And this milestone of turning 30 years old feels like the end, and he needs to have his break before that end is reached. And so he's putting so much added pressure on this musical that he's been working on for 8 years, because if this doesn't do it for him, he's out of time. And that's contrasted well with all of the other things in his life that are also on a ticking clock. His relationship with his girlfriend, and some other spoilery things that I can't talk about. And so all of these things are ticking towards this big boom. And we'll talk later about sort of what that boom is and how it turned on its head by Lin.
I can relate to the concept of feeling like you're running out of time. I used to have this arbitrary, like, it was like a joke, I need to state that it was a joke. But I had this rule with my friends back when I was in Iowa that if I wasn't married by 25, I was going to kill myself for my 25th birthday.
You are running out of time.
So we're pushing back that date a little bit because I feel like maybe that's a little bit too early. But it's the same concept.
Just a little bit too early.
Maybe a little.
You
bit.
just
a couple weeks.
The thing is like think about stocks. You got to sell high for like a good return.
That's true.
So like I assume as a person, not like as a person, but like I assume in terms of marketability to a partner at this time, I was like I'll peak at around 25. So I need to lock it down before I experience like diminishing returns. So I was like 25, take it or leave it, whatever I've got. And so he's feeling the same thing with musicals at 30. So, to that extent I can relate to him, but we're pushing back on 25 right now.
To save Wyatt's life, Wyatt, I make you this promise right now. I will marry you before you kill yourself.
I mean,
that's a homie move
that
right
implies that I would prefer that option.
That's so disrespectful for our listeners. Brett is leaning back in his chair, sobbing.
He's crying. He's weeping.
But like, why would you say that, man?
It's okay. I can't make. Never mind.
Pretty messed up.
You're okay. Sorry, I feel bad.
I would get everything in the divorce.
Well, yeah.
I would put all of my money into a lawyer to take everything you have.
This is crazy coming from the man who just said that he would marry you.
Yeah, now he's divorcing me?
I turned quick.
I didn't even accept the proposal.
Well, that's the problem.
I don't feel like you're familiar with the concept of divorce.
Bryce, can you arrange this marriage? Just make him do it.
I can do whatever I need to do here. As your boss on this podcast, I think you have to.
You can fire me.
I'm going to cut your wages in half.
Oh, fuck, a penny?
Yeah. That would imply that I've given you a penny. We've made about a penny from this podcast.
Well,
so
when you
far.
kept it to yourself, the rich man strikes again.
Yeah.
God.
Here I am.
You're the 1%.
I might be. Certainly
of this house.
Certainly of this house.
And of this
talking
podcast.
In terms of podcast income. To be fair, I've not removed any of that money from our Spotify for Podcasters account. It's like $2. I want to talk briefly here before we get into spoilers about my Lin Manuel Miranda take, because I have a lot of thoughts on the man. Firstly, and why I feel like he was
You're
likely
thinking about dudes
all the time.
Men just in your free time,
especially artistic men that create things. That really gets me going. Lin was born in 1980, and I'm seeing In the Heights, which was like his first breakout musical. It wasn't his first musical, but it was certainly the one that like put him on the map. Did not come out until 2008. So for the people who are good at math in our audience,
the people who are good in our audience,
those people too. He was nearing 30 when he got that break, and I think it's very likely that he could relate to Jonathan Larson's story, because this is not an original idea from the mind of Lin Manuel Miranda, and so he was very drawn to this story, I would imagine. My take on Lin is that he is a very talented writer and director. He did Hamilton, incredible musical. He did In the Heights, another great musical. And his writing specifically is very creative, and he's proven he can also direct very well. But I cannot stand the fact that he casts himself in the lead of all of his musicals because he cannot sing. Brett mentioned the demo tapes for Hamilton. They're on YouTube. You should definitely check them out. Because it's just Lin Manuel Miranda singing all of the parts in Hamilton, and it actually sounds like a man who has never sung before. They are very ridiculous, but
can relate.
Brett, a man who loves to sing,
that dude
cannot do it.
Brett was going crazy yesterday, but it was just one verse of a song. I forget what song it was.
Oh, I do that a lot.
It's Harry Styles' Two Ghosts. I'm working on a cover of it.
Oh,
lots
okay.
of autotune.
A man who can't sing working on a cover. I love that. Would not. I mean, you've done that once before, and it turned out well. So I look forward to that.
Before we move on from like the concept of turning 30 and like running out of time, the whole time that was going on, I was also thinking like Bo Burnham had a song about that on Inside.
Yes.
Do you guys view 30 as like a big benchmark? Because I don't I guess I'm not that close to it. I still got good 8 years, but I don't feel like it's any different than, like, it doesn't feel like a massive shift, I guess, because it's a group of 10, but
That was going to be my only thought.
It's not like that's any different from like
29.
I mean
31.
It doesn't, I don't understand the significance at least yet. Like 20 didn't feel like it was anything crazy. It was just like, oh, I'm a year older as per scheduled, but who knows?
I take a lot of comfort in watching other people who are older than me reach that milestone and then see their life not change at all the day after they turn 30. Yeah. Like, we have a decent amount of older friends who still hang. And also, the other place that I take a lot of comfort is New Girl, where all of them are a lot older than me and living some really good lives. I know it's a work of fiction, but don't judge. It's my comfort show.
It's a good one. To finish off my point about Lin, though, I do not love him when he thinks he can perform. However, the guy he clearly has good artistic vision, and I think that that's really on display here. For some context, Tick, Tick, Boom is like this deeply meta musical. It's frankly not even really a musical. It's more of like a stage performance. Jonathan Larson wrote it after the musical that's talked about in this movie and before his breakout musical Rent. The whole musical is just performed with Jonathan Larson or whoever is playing Jonathan Larson on a stage with a piano and a few backup singers and a band. And it's just this series of songs that he wrote and monologues that he wrote about this time in his life. And what Lin is doing in this movie, and what I think makes it such an impressive directorial feat, is this isn't necessarily profound, but I don't think it's easy to pull off. He adds context to everything from the original musical. He pieces together like glimpses of what you learn about from the actual monologues and from the songs, but gives it context. And it's not all 100% accurate. It says that like the first line in the movie. It's like, this is Jonathan Larson's story. Some of it's not real. Like, it's very obvious and honest about that. But
isn't it except for the parts he made up?
Yes. Yeah. You're exactly right. And what that's doing is making this a much more like human and is exteric the right word?
Esoteric.
I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for.
Esoteric is a word.
It is a word.
You're looking for exothermic.
Yeah, that one. It's an outside view of this person's life, whereas when you're just watching the stage musical, it's purely like this guy talking about his own life, and it's not always as relatable in that case, but Lin is able to give context and make this story a little bit more relatable, I feel. And we'll talk a little bit more about how he's doing that technically when we get into spoilers. But
esoteric, adjective, intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with specialized knowledge or interest.
So that's the exact opposite of
what,
the word that I was looking for.
Can we get an exothermic because that regards to that's it.
It's a type of chemical reaction.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
The last thing I want to talk about here is
chemical reactions.
Andrew Garfield, and also chemical reactions and the chemical reaction that happens in my brain every time I see that man on a screen. Brett, you said two things when you introduced me to Tick, Tick, Boom. You said, this movie is really good. And you said, you remember about Andrew Garfield?
That Andrew Garfield is the best actor of our generation.
And I said, that's an insane take. And then I watched this movie and I was like, this guy might be onto something. And then I looked at all of the other Andrew Garfield movies that I've seen, and I was like, damn, this guy really might be onto something. He's
Bryce
awesome.
Put down the remote and he said, he looked in the camera and said, let's lasso the moon. And then we started a podcast.
That part did not happen.
No, you had to be there.
Yeah, Andrew Garfield is really good in this role. I've got a really great fun fact about how he got cast in this movie. But I think he does a really good job of exemplifying like the torment that this character's under and the stress given the circumstances, but also the quirkiness and the love that, what's his name?
Michael?
with names. Nope, the main character.
Jonathan
Oh,
Powers.
Jonathan
Powers?
feels
Majors?
Larson.
Larson.
The love that
Jonathan Majors
Jonathan
is
Larson.
the other actor.
Yes.
Yeah. He's too busy beating up on people he shouldn't be beating up on right now.
Allegedly.
He is doing that.
Sue me.
Yeah. Does a good job of showing how much love and empathy Jonathan Larson has for all of the people that he is surrounded by. His performance was nominated for Best Actor. It did not win, but I believe it was my personal favorite performance of that year. And he's also singing, and he's not a singer, so it's pretty impressive. But yeah, do you guys have any more closing thoughts before we get into spoilers?
No.
I think I also told you the Andrew Garfield fun fact that you're going to get into later, and I just want to let you know that you
I don't think
need
you
me.
did. I think I found this on a
me.
YouTube video.
Nope.
And we're going to leave everyone on a cliffhanger. If you do not want to be spoiled for the movie Tick, Tick, Boom, hop off. Give the movie a watch. It's on Netflix for free with the cost of a Netflix subscription, which is becoming increasingly more expensive and hard to justify.
Tough.
Steal it from your parents.
Steal it from your parents, as any self-respecting person under the age of 25 does. If you do not care, or if you've already seen this movie, feel free to join us in the rest of this conversation.
If you're watching, I'm so sorry that I'm texting so much in the
I
middle
was
of
going
all
to
of
say.
this.
That doesn't
looked
give a
over
damn about my podcast.
Well, it's the reason why I'm not using my phone to record the video as I usually would. I'm having groceries delivered to me, and I held onto the phone in case the shopper needed like one or two suggestions about what to get, because that happens sometimes. Target is out of everything tonight.
That's really unfortunate.
It is probably half of the order. It's not been.
Will I get
tonight.
my lemons and limes for my silly little
I'm actually
drinks?
working on that right now.
Thank you. I
Crazy
appreciate the work
take.
you put in for this
Crazy
house.
take. If you went to grocery shop yourself, you'd realize these things, and then you'd go to a different store, and then you'd realize, oh, now I have the things I need.
Yeah, but then
Because-
I couldn't be here with you tonight.
Online grocery shopping is the weirdest thing I've ever seen, but it works out for you.
No, it's a terrible take.
It works out for
I
you.
do not
Saves
want to
so much time.
ever step foot into a grocery store again. I know that it's like therapeutic for some people.
I don't. It's
hate
not
that
therapeutic.
shit.
I just think the concept of paying a delivery fee and tip for something you just don't have to is wild.
There's no delivery fee with the membership.
Wyatt, here's a fact for you.
With a membership, what does a membership cost?
$100 a year.
That's insane.
That is not.
That is
insane.
ridiculous.
It's a whole year.
You're paying $100 to pay someone extra to get
Think
some
about-
of the groceries you want for you.
It would have taken me 2.5 hours to go do this shopping trip.
I'm gonna end this whole argument. I'm gonna interrupt you because I can put the nail in this coffin. Money cannot buy happiness. There is a proven, and I'm talking proven, like multiple studies that show spending money on things that save you time is one of the most significant factors in increasing the likelihood that you live a happy life. Paying people to clean your house, paying people to mow your yard, paying people to do your grocery shopping is scientifically proven to make people more happy because it gives them more time to invest in things that they actually enjoy doing.
You mean to tell me that's okay? You can say those facts, but there's you have to consider that. You mean to tell me rich people who have more money to do the things that they don't want to do have a better time? That's not a shocking
Not with that
statistic.
specifically, but
That's not a shocking statistic at all. Either way, we're talking about online grocery shopping on a podcast about movies. Either way.
Fun fact, in 1990, they didn't have smartphones to be able to do this.
Yeah.
what a great segue.
Jonathan Larson would have loved Instacart.
Jonathan Larson wouldn't have used Instacart. He lives in New York City. He would have just walked down the street.
Yeah, they got grocery stores everywhere.
Walkable city on God.
Let's talk about the
$100. Ridiculous.
He's not over this yet. I want to talk more specifically about how important it is that Lin Manuel Miranda is giving context to this story as a whole.
It's giving context.
It's giving context. I wrote down a couple songs where I specifically was like, oh, it's really cool that in this moment we're seeing more of this story. Let me find those examples. So like the first one that I thought of was the Argument song. If you were watching the original Tick, Tick, Boom play, or I guess musical, and you just look at the lyrics of that song, it's a really quirky and like lighthearted song. And that could be very much what Jonathan Larson is trying to convey. But I cannot imagine a world where you're arguing with someone that you love where you're not feeling a lot of hurt in that moment, no matter who's right or wrong. And the fun, lighthearted spin on that Jonathan Larson did in his original show is fun. But by giving, in the context of this movie, interspersing the song with actual dialogue and an actual argument taking place, we learn so much more about who Jonathan is in this moment, what his motivations are, and why he's driving out people in his life. And like that shows how important reaching this deadline is for him. Like he's willing to hurt people in his life because he's so solely focused on this one thing.
This is one of my favorite songs on the soundtrack. Mm-hmm. It's so unique in the way that it's arranged and plays out. And like you said, delivers a message about what's happening and kind of shows some of the inner workings of his intentions here. Is really interesting to me. It was immediately one of my favorite and most memorable parts of the movie when I watched it the first time. And it's still like probably top 3 favorite parts of the movie for me.
And another example of this, Brett, you actually pointed out, and I hadn't noticed it before. Can you expand more on like your take about the song No More and how grand that whole set piece is?
Oh yeah, that's the Superbia like main theme
song? No. When Michael, is that his name? Yeah, Michael first moves into his new apartment, the song that they sing there. Yeah. You pointed out how grand it is and what that means. I thought it was a really good take.
Yeah. There is a scene where Michael, who is Jonathan Larson's like best childhood friend, who they have created together, they live in New York together. He starts as a roommate to Jonathan Larson in the beginning of the movie. Eventually we see his journey of being in a similar position to Jonathan as somebody who is a starving artist. He gets really fed up with that life because it's just not sustainable for him and he's unhappy. He moves on to like a comfy but predictable office job where he makes so much more money than he ever could have dreamed of in his previous life.
High five figures,
which is very important because once he strikes the high 5-figure salary, he just like has this grandiose life that is like not actually that amazing, but it is exaggerated through one of the songs where they have gourmet foods and lavish house parties and maids at the apartment. Which is a beautiful, like, actually extravagant New York apartment that you could never have today on a high 5-figure salary.
And I also don't think, realistically, it would have been afforded with that salary at that time either, frankly.
Probably.
And I think that's the point that you were getting at.
Right. That it's like, it's just a different time. And it's amazing to see the difference between, that it is shown as being so grandiose, not because he's making that much New York money, but because he went from, and Jonathan Larson were together in such squalor as starving artists that the 5-figure salary, which a lot of people at that age are like on average will attain, is this huge life-changing jump that is now a central conflict, especially for Jonathan Larson later in the movie.
And it's from Jonathan Larson's perspective.
Yes.
Seeing how ridiculous this is.
Yeah, but he gets to contrast that against what he is used to living in every single day, which is, having a dingy apartment with too many roommates. It's crowded and his lights are getting shut off.
That whole bit reminded me of living in Mifflin Avenue, an address that I want to have to bleep out, with Matt, Maggie, and Joe. This is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment that I lived in for a summer. This song even references like throwing your keys down because the door thing doesn't work. Yeah. That was literally a thing that I experienced. And this was like a small for a 2-bed, 1-bath, even frankly. So we've been there. That was also the brokest summer of my life.
But at the same time, there's something very desirable about that life. Like when I was coming out of high school and all I wanted was to live with my buddies and spend as much time with them as possible, I would have killed for that. Like, that was exactly what I wanted. But
a
then
bohemian lifestyle, if you will.
If you will. But then as you get older and you see, sometimes that gets eventually tiresome and other opportunities presents itself. Happens in Frances Ha. That's another theme of that movie. One of Wyatt's favorites that did not win the vote to get talked about tonight, unfortunately.
Fuck you guys.
Oh, also worth noting, we have now done 3 poll movies, and we have each had a movie that we suggested get picked.
What was mine?
Interstellar.
Mine was La La Land, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this one was mine.
That's very nice.
I'm sweeping from here on out.
We're going to be very competitive about this.
Every time I think of a movie that I want to pick, I try to balance, like, this is a movie that I would like to talk about, but also, will a single person vote for this movie?
Yeah. I felt that same way about when Wyatt posted Frances Ha. Like, I really want to talk about Frances Ha.
It's a great movie.
But
we can always just do it.
It's true. I hope we do at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't expect that one to get a lot of votes. Juno gave you a run for its money.
It did.
Yeah,
Lost by...
If Steve didn't vote twice, I might have had a chance.
That's true. Shout out Steve for listening to this podcast. Another thing that I want to talk about, Brett, you mentioned the editing in this movie. It's unique. It's like very fast paced. There are a lot of cuts, almost like you would get in an action movie or something. And in the first song, there are so many cuts, like almost every other line of dialogue where it's cutting to not just like a new shot, but a whole different set piece. And I was alarmed by that at first, but it kind of continues that throughout the whole movie. Like, there are multiple points that are not even in the context of a song where it's cutting back and forth between multiple set pieces and almost like all of the different timelines that Jonathan Larson has that are sort of leading to this head, where it's cutting back between those. So I felt like this movie's 2 hours long, and I feel like the editing is done effectively enough that it keeps the pace moving.
It's not disorienting in any way.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to follow. And especially like with a musical, if it's not done well, anytime you're taking breaks to stop talking about the plot and to just have like a song and dance that is happening, it can really take out the momentum of the story. And I think the editing does a really good job of that. I don't know if that was what your thoughts were about that when you said that you liked the editing. Wyatt, I don't know if you liked the editing. It's certainly unique for this style of movie. But yeah.
I felt like you were next up in that.
Oh.
Either of you are. Whoever feels most compelled to speak.
Teacher, I would like to talk about the editing.
Brett, your hand is raised. You are welcome to speak.
I liked it. Like I said, it is jump cutty and attention grabbing, but it is not disorienting or jarring or in any way. It keeps a through line plot of the movie. Nothing is particularly like, oh, that's weird. That's an interesting decision to me. That's like, oh God, I hate this. This is terrible. Except that diner scene. Which I have a lot of thoughts about.
We'll certainly talk about the diner scene in the nitpick category, I'm sure.
But I thought it was fine. I liked the swimming pool scene. They got real jump cutty with that. And I was like, damn, this guy's swimming hella fast.
Shout out singing while speed racing.
There's literally a shot where he's like, it's from underneath and he's like fully getting his swim strokes in, and the guy is just like speaking. And it's like,
I don't know if that's how that works. Like, I don't know if you
can
do that.
Really silly.
But it was fine. I mean, obviously not editing, but I think there are, if we can just segue this into the nitpicks, why not?
Sure. Let's do nitpicks.
There's like,
I've got quite a few.
Every single time they step outside, this movie looks like dog shit. Which is like my main, like, I don't dislike this movie. I just am indifferent towards it. My one like serious qualm, and I get it because we were talking about it during the movie. There's a lot of people who are very busy folks in the diner scene who are all famous Broadway folks, so they probably didn't have the ability to all be in the same place at the same time. But the second they step outside there, or when they're on the roof, Jonathan and his girlfriend are on the roof later in the movie, every shot of the skyline or of outside, with the exception of the point of the movie in which they're in Central Park, looks so fucking bad. Yeah. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I have the same exact nitpick written down. I don't know if it's quite as much as every time, but Come to Your Senses is that rooftop song that you were talking about. And then there's the scene at the party at the beginning where they're on the rooftop. That also looks bad. And the diner scene looks egregious.
It looks like early, like prequel Star Wars style CGI.
It's tough.
And I don't know if that was like due to budget constraints or what. I mean, filming in New York City is definitely expensive. But there were a few moments where stuff was shot like on location, like the Central Park scene that you mentioned, Wyatt, that look really good. And there are a few other moments throughout this movie where Lin Manuel Miranda shows he can, even though this is not really his medium, he can put a good shot on the screen. And so it contrasted in a negative way anytime that was happening, when you would see these just horrible CGI green screen sets. Really takes you out of it.
I just looked up the budget. It was a lot more expensive than I thought it was.
Really?
$55 million.
Yeah, that's pretty moderate.
I figured because there's a lot of on-set shooting, not a big cast, etc. There's a lot of repeated production design. Like, there aren't a lot of different locations. I thought it would be a lot cheaper than that. But
$45 million of that went to Lin Manuel Miranda's pockets.
That's
that greedy little man.
Real. I didn't even think about that.
Brett, do you have any nitpicks? It's okay if you don't.
Jonathan Larson straight.
That's a gay man.
It's entirely possible. Who knows?
So I actually looked it up. His sexuality is considered contentious by the gay community because there's disagreement. There's some discourse.
Did you see that speaking of not the gay community, but also like in his death, there's just a community that's like, he's probably one of us. And it's the Marfan syndrome community. They were just like,
yes,
he probably had that. We should say he did.
Pause.
They don't even know.
What is this?
Marfan's, it's like a heart condition.
Oh.
All I know is that there's this dude who played college basketball at Baylor who's about to be drafted, and then they found out that he had that. He couldn't be drafted anymore.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. But either way, I just thought that it was odd that was like contentious afterwards, that they were like, he's one of our guys.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. I mean, we're in the spoiler section, so Jonathan Larson dies at the end of this movie. It's also not really a spoiler because it's a real thing that happened to a real person, and they say it in the first couple minutes of the movie. But yeah, it's unfortunate. I think just given the struggling artist lifestyle, I can't imagine he was going to the doctor and getting his yearly checkups.
And stress exacerbates that.
Yes,
yeah.
very
Ki
much
Hee
so.
Kwan famously did not have health insurance right before he won Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he couldn't get life insurance
That's
or health
crazy.
insurance.
Yeah.
That was
Because
after
it's a life.
he got one because he didn't technically receive enough hours through It's Everything Everywhere All at Once, and he couldn't get booked for anything else afterwards either.
Right.
But
Yeah, that's wild.
that got rich, so he got that private or he got that out of pocket money.
Have you seen the video of him meeting Joe Biden?
Who is this
Yes.
guy?
It's really funny. He's like crazy giddy about meeting Joe Biden.
I think he's just crazy giddy about life.
Sprints at the president of the United States. You'd think Secret Service was going to tackle him.
They know that guy's not a threat.
Joe Biden goes, who the hell is this guy? It's classic Joe.
Iconic. Here's a nitpick for you. I cannot stand Vanessa Hudgens singing. Her voice is terrible. Okay, it's not terrible.
I think
I'm going to take that back.
It's a lot better in this movie than it is in High School Musical.
I don't know if I agree with that. I am a High School Musical truther, as is Wyatt.
Real.
And so I have no qualms with Miss Hudgens as a person.
Is she Miss Tucker now? Are they married?
I think they're
Carlson?
engaged.
Sorry.
I think they're engaged.
Former Pittsburgh Pirate Justin Tucker is the fiance.
Hello?
Oh, sorry. That would be kicker of the Baltimore Ravens. What's his first name?
Cole?
Cole Tucker.
Cole Tucker.
He current Arizona Diamondback AAA
Let's go.
player.
It's clear she's a classically trained singer. Like, her technique is okay. But there are a few moments in this soundtrack where, like, specifically a few lines in Come to Your Senses, namely, and the last song, which its name is forgetting me, or I'm forgetting its name, where I'm like, this this person cannot sing. So that it takes me out of it every once in a while.
Louder than words.
Louder than words, yeah. There's one line in there in particular, like, oh, it almost hurts my ears to listen to.
Yeah, in my opinion, well, you don't have to dwell on it, but like I get that. I think there's a lot more of that in High School Musical.
That's fair.
It is all over the place.
I have a strong nostalgia bias with High School
Rose-colored
Musical.
glasses.
Certainly. Another. Go ahead, please.
What's the one song that ends on like a Andrew Garfield singing a note, and you were like, "That's a blank trying to sing a blank note"?
That was the end of Sunday. Andrew Garfield is like, brunch, and it's clear it was a little bit low for my poor guy's register. So yeah, there are certainly some moments in here where the singing is not good. I give Andrew Garfield a pass, not just because he's Andrew Garfield, but because he is not a singer, and he is playing someone who is not a singer. Like, Jonathan Larson was not a singer. He was a playwright that could sing because he had to perform his music. But like, singing was not his trade. It was writing plays. It's much like Lin Manuel Miranda.
Do you know Andrew Garfield is a phenomenal woodworker?
I did not know that.
Work my wood. Let's go.
I'll high five that one.
Let's go.
That's great. In an interview, it was Emma Stone mentioned that the best gift she had ever received from anyone in her life was a handmade chair from an ex-partner. And it was revealed that Andrew Garfield had made her a chair while they were together.
That is absolutely incredible. And also a good segue to our next category, which is Bryce's Fun Fact Corner. I have one of my favorite movie fun facts in regards to how Andrew Garfield got cast in this movie.
Responded to a text that said show hole.
Out of left field.
I hate that.
Show Bob's and Vagine.
He was getting a actually, I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun. Lin Manuel Miranda was getting a massage.
Oh, I know the story.
You know the story?
Yeah, you've told me
Lin
this.
had just seen Andrew Garfield in a play that was on Broadway. It was like, that guy can really act. And Lin had been planning this movie, ideating, if you will. Was not really off the ground at all, but he wanted to make this movie. And he was like, Andrew Garfield would be really good in this role. But of course, it's a musical. Lin was getting a massage, and he knew his masseuse was also Andrew Garfield's masseuse. You know this story, Brett?
Yeah, I claimed you told it to you.
You did claim
fucker.
That. I liked the way that you were looking at me there. I was like, I gotta mess with this guy. So
they got the same masseuse.
They had the same masseuse. So he asks the masseuse, hey, can Andrew Garfield sing? And the masseuse, having no idea whether or not Andrew Garfield could sing, is like, yeah, he's got the voice of an angel. Real homie move out of the masseuse.
Why would the masseuse know that? Why did Lin Manuel Miranda think, oh yeah, the masseuse will know this?
When you're rich, you're getting massages like weekly to bi-weekly. I would imagine you share a lot with your masseuse.
You're telling me this twice monthly or once every 2 week massage is bi?
You're telling me this week is by?
So, moving on. He gets Andrew Garfield's number from the masseuse, texts him, and is like, hey, I'm thinking about making this movie. Can you sing? And Andrew responds, when do you need to have this movie made by? Like, when would we start recording? And Lin was like, not for another year or so. And so Andrew Garfield responds, yeah, I can sing. So he took professional voice lessons from, I learned this recently, the girl who plays the emo girl in Mean Girls, who is now a professional vocal coach.
You got me there. I didn't know that part.
Nice. And he learned how to sing and play piano in the course of a year. And he's like, honestly, really good for someone who had never sang before. Andrew Garfield also was a competitive swimmer in high school, so he didn't have to learn how to swim for this movie. He also was a competitive gymnast in high school. And
what the fuck didn't he do?
He literally does it all. He's the best man of all time.
This guy could be Spider-Man.
The story he tells about that is he was one time doing squats with his gymnastics coach on his back, I was like, what the hell am I doing with my life? I need a new hobby. So he tried out every hobby, probably is where he learned woodworking. And none of them were working out for him. And then he like signed up for an acting class, and that's how we got Andrew Garfield.
Shout out.
Which of us could squat the other?
I bet if I put you on my back, I could do that.
I agree with that. I think Wyatt could.
I got big ass legs.
I can squat over 200 pounds, so I would imagine I could squat you guys. It might be awkward.
So too. Yeah,
it'd be awkward in the sense of like I'm on your back.
We all can max
We're
over
all
200
strong
pounds.
boys.
I think we could all do it to each other.
Fun fact: I've never ever in my life lifted anything in which I'm like, this is the amount of weight. I have no idea what my max would be for anything.
It's not a circumstance that you encounter very often in the real world.
Well, yeah, it's just I don't know.
Yeah.
It's great to not know because then you don't have to compare it to anybody else.
Move this table right now. Put this guy on my back, and then put myself on this guy's back.
Lasso the Moon content number 3, behind boxing and what was the other one we talked about? I don't even remember.
Mine and Wyatt's divorce.
I didn't even agree to get married.
Well, now you're getting divorced, so.
And then squatted.
Here's a fast fact.
Get divorced and squatted.
That's a crazy week.
Here's a fast fact. Roger, the guy that is on stage with Vanessa Hudgens and Andrew Garfield throughout this movie.
He's singing Happy Birthday.
He's singing a lot. That is actually Roger Bart. I don't know if either of you know that name. Roger Bart is probably most famous for being Hercules in the Disney movie Hercules.
Shout out. Shout out dude's named Roger.
Roger. Great name.
Yeah.
They were just friends.
Can I throw in go ahead.
I just want to say he's a dog in this movie.
He's great. He carries a lot of weight.
He has like, God, one speaking line maybe, but every single vocal performance, he gives it all.
And when I say he carries a lot of weight, I mean like energy wise.
Yeah.
Like he's just putting his all into every scene. He's fun to watch.
Can I have a Roger fun fact unrelated to this movie?
Please
just
hit me with
related
a Roger
to
fun fact.
The dude who named the Seattle Mariners, Roger Smodis. They sent out a thing in the Seattle Times, and they were like, "We want Seattleites to name our baseball team. What will they be named?" And he said, "The Mariners," for the relationship between the city, its people, and the sea. And they said, "That's a great idea."
I was about to say, great idea.
That's a phenomenal idea. Roger Smodis, we would love to get in contact with you and give you season tickets to the first ever year's worth of Mariners games. That was the last ever proof of Roger Smodis' existence.
Wow.
They could never track him back down. He vanished into thin air. He's never been seen or found or heard of since. Nobody knows.
What year was this? I was just about to say, I asked what year it was to see if he's D.B. Cooper.
Like 1968.
Wait.
I don't know when
D.B. Cooper was in the 60s, right? I need to look this up.
Okay, while you're looking it up,
will explode.
I have a sports naming fact that is
it a Roger
similar. Not Roger, sorry. The Pittsburgh Steelers were named in a similar way. They put out a newspaper ad for people to give suggestions. The guy who suggested Steelers was from Uniontown, my hometown.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. Shout out.
Brett, I'm realizing, or I guess, yeah, I'm realizing if you threw some goofy goggles on me and shaved my head, I would kind of look like D.B. Cooper. That was 71.
Well, how do we have
the timeline works out?
Is there I've never seen, I assume you're looking at a
police sketch.
Police sketch, right?
Really
let me see. Turn that pic.
Turn that joint around.
Oh, I have seen this. Yeah.
We have similar head shapes.
It'd be funny if we just solved the D.B. Cooper case.
It's me in 1971.
No, it's Roger Smodis.
Goofy ass head shape.
Hey, man.
You should be ashamed.
All right. Last fun fact before we move on.
Oh, wait. I have a fun fact.
Oh, please.
So, Superbia, the
musical Low-Key Cheeks.
There are a couple of songs that I think are bangers, but there's a lot of bad ones showcased in the movie. The musical Superbia, that was never fully produced by Jonathan Larson. Was loosely based around George Orwell's 1984.
Whoa,
Yes.
That checks out.
This is literally Orwellian. Brett, when the delivery guy will not bring him lemons and instead asks for limes.
That is Brett's Beau is Afraid experience.
That grocery order is currently sitting on our stoop.
Damn.
waiting
I
to be
hope
picked
someone
up.
steals it. That'd be so funny and would really prove my point.
Ask Paige to get it.
I could tempt her with some food, and she'd probably do it.
She can probably smell it through that door.
Truly.
Last little tiny baby fun fact. The Bohemia song that they sing near the beginning of the movie that is like made up improv for this party was actually borderline improv for the movie. That was not like really a part of the Tick Tick Boom stage performance that Jonathan Larson would do. It was a way that he connected with the audience. Like he kind of just improv'd it with the audience and they would sing along. And Lin and Andrew, if I remember correctly, were kind of just like, this would be fun to throw in the movie. And they had this party scene that was like kind of lacking in some substance. So they were like, Andrew, just cook for a little bit. And so he sang that song and it's a hit. It's a fun scene.
Speaking of cook, would you guys eat the food from the diner in that movie? It looked good. I thought it was fine.
It looked like a good vibe.
Throw a little salt, little pepper, little scallion on some egg.
And Jonathan's playing some show tunes on his mixtapes.
Exactly.
It's
You're
an
good to
eclectic
go.
mix.
Lin Manuel Miranda is a cameo cook in that diner,
Let him cook.
and he's making some ass bacon. It looks terrible. It's like
I didn't notice.
it's not like something that is really standout, but looking at it, it looked disgusting. In my opinion. Shout out terrible looking
I've
bacon.
had a lot of bad bacon in my life.
You guys didn't like the Oak Hill Post bacon. I think that was pretty crazy because that's some good stuff.
No, it was terrible.
Yeah, I'm with Brett on this
I'm
one.
so sorry that I feel like we're teaming up on you. But
It's okay. You guys are wrong. You don't have to feel like you're teaming up on me when I know I'm right. And
Fair
that's all
enough.
that matters.
Let's get back to the movie.
All right.
We've been not talking about this movie a lot. And I know some people very close to me that would be sad if we didn't talk about certain things in this movie. One thing that I
Fuck
really... Fair enough. Fair enough. One thing that I really like that this movie does is, again, this is like totally context that Lin is giving to this story that would not otherwise be there. The whole movie kind of climaxes at the final song. What did you say it was called? Cages
God,
Have Wings. Wish You...
forget again.
I'm so bad with song names.
I know this is one. It's like my favorite.
I was
song
about
on
to
the
say, it's
soundtrack.
in my top
Louder
three.
Than Words.
The whole movie, like the song Louder Than Words is like what this whole thing is building up to, where he is left not with answers, but with a lot of questions. And those questions are sort of what incites the rest of Jonathan Larson's life and him writing this musical and then him writing Rent. And there are just some like, not throwaway lines from that song, but it was clear Lin was like, where is he getting these questions from that he's asking in this song at the end that is so important to the conclusion of this story? And so he's giving context to that. A lot of the non-song scenes that we're seeing throughout this movie are just bits and pieces of Jonathan Larson's life where he experiences something and it impacts him very greatly. So he like jots it down in his little notebook. And it just shows like everything that he is leading up for when his agent is like, write about what you know. That all of those little pieces are impactful moments in Jonathan Larson's life that led to him ending up where he ends up. And I like that a lot. It's like not crazy creative, but it, I think, is done effectively enough that as someone who is interested in the story of Jonathan Larson and the impact that he had both on the musical theater world and then by proxy, the world at large, it's cool to see where someone that was so impactful would have gotten those feelings and those questions from.
I think it's a good plot device. It's funny because actually, like, one of my least favorite parts of the movie is that there are a lot of moments that are genuinely cringe-inducing. And one of them to me is one of the moments when he writes down something in his notepad, and there's somebody on TV being very homophobic about the AIDS epidemic, and Andrew Garfield writes down, "The boss is wrong as rain," which A, sounds stupid, B, doesn't make sense.
It's
C
a
is
twist
like
on...
crazy pretentious.
Yeah. It's a twist on right as rain, which is a phrase that I don't like. I know what it means, but I have no idea what that means, you know?
I haven't talked to an old British woman in a while, so I haven't heard it recently.
Right as rain.
Right as rain. Either way.
Do you talk to a lot of old British women?
Like, a fair amount.
Okay.
I've got websites for it.
Telling Juliet what's going on here.
She knows.
You're doing better than I am, I think, if you're talking to British women and I'm not.
We'll get you out there, don't worry. I'll get you an account after this. Speaking of the rain, though, this dude gets rained on a lot, or he's cold. Anytime he goes outside, he seems to have a bad time.
That was us in New York.
Chilly. Yeah.
He's bundled up like a little penguin, though. He looked cute.
Oh, yeah, we were in New York last week.
Yeah.
That's why we didn't release an episode.
Funny enough, we didn't mention that at all up to this point.
Yeah, I meant to mention it at the start, and then I forgot.
It poured the entire time.
100% of the time we were there, it was raining. It was fun, like, seeing this movie right after being in New York and being like, oh, yeah, we were just there.
That is true.
It's like New York City kind of reminds me like of if you made like a Great Value Pittsburgh, you know?
I think you're right.
They like kind of ripped us off on a few things here and there. But they had some damn good tacos, I'll tell you that much.
Wow, that's
Los
real.
Tacos numero uno. If for whatever reason this gets back to you or anybody who knows you, I miss you so bad. Come home.
You think the people over at Los Tacos numero uno are listening to this?
Who knows?
I would
Maybe
hope so.
they
I hope
want to
so,
be on
too.
Broadway, but they need to find a job to get by, and they're like, where can I work and also get free food? And they're like, oh shit, Los Tacos numero uno would be a genius idea. So they work there, they eat free tacos, they just want to get to Broadway. I'm gonna write a play now. It's gonna be about
That's
that.
a good idea.
It's gonna be about that. A white guy who works at Los Tacos learns Spanish and learns the importance of friendship and multiculturalism as he learns that the real play and the real pursuit of happiness was tacos all along.
I think this has a lot of potential.
I'll do
Especially if you're like in partnership with Los Tacos numero uno.
it. You know what they say is they love branded media content. Everybody loves a brand deal of an entire movie or play.
White guy
Shout out
discovers tacos could have been my autobiography.
It's crazy how late in your life you discovered tacos.
On God.
When do you think like the first time in your life you had like cayenne pepper was?
Oh,
Pretty
God.
early. My dad introduced me to Frank's Red Hot Sauce when I was like 5.
I mean, I feel like Brett's gonna have a later answer.
No, it was like
were you
3 years
asking
ago.
Yeah, no, because I
Okay.
knew it was gonna be like
Uh,
he recently discovered there's more.
classic me thinking everything is about me.
Unbelievable.
The first time I gave Brett a hot Cheeto,
Oh,
he
God.
cried because it was so spicy.
It's really bad.
Are you serious?
No, I did not grow up with any amount of like spice in anything that I ever ate.
What
So
was-
it was like, you know those memes that are like, what would happen if you gave a Victorian child a Taki?
Yeah.
That was literally me. And I about exploded.
He had literally never experienced spicy food until that hot Cheeto.
That's remarkable. What was like the spiciest thing you can remember growing up? Like in your home?
Sour
What a
cream.
Sprite. Oh, you didn't drink
I
bubbly
did not drink
beverages. They were too
soda.
spicy for you.
No, but that was the thing is if I would have drank one, I'd spit it all over the place. That was like my first experience with anything like quote unquote like white people spicy.
For our listeners, Brett has grown. I've eaten wings many times with this guy. He can handle his spice now.
Yeah. Build up the tolerance. That's gross.
Neither of us can do it as well as Wyatt, though.
No,
I'm a
it's true.
fucking champion. We
I
should give
watched
this guy.
eat the bomb and not flinch. It was crazy.
We should give Brett a medium spice level chicken sandwich from Chicken and watch as he breaks down.
No, well, I have done that before, thinking that I could handle medium because that's
'Cause
like
medium,
average.
Yeah,
That shit
it's
is
their
not average.
second. It is their second least spicy sauce.
Wrong.
Oh, really?
Third.
Mild, medium.
Southern.
Southern,
Southern.
mild, medium, hot, damn hot.
Okay,
Damn
we're talking
hot.
about things that a lot of people listening to this will have no idea what we're talking about.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. You guys want to say it with me?
I don't know what you're gonna say.
Fuck them.
I don't say
Moving
that
on.
word. It's bad. There was one thing I did want to talk. Oh, what are your thoughts about Jonathan's relationship with his partner?
Beard.
She might be.
We
She might
can't
be.
say that he's gay because he's not, and it's stereotypical to say that he would be gay, but it's funny to
Hey.
comment on.
What's that like third note you have written down?
Oh, John Larson would have been he, they, but they hadn't invented pronouns in 1990.
Yeah, about that. What can we
Was
describe
that
about
a
him?
note
Without...
you were going to read? Had Wyatt not called you out for it?
Potentially.
Can you say that one more time? Just to really
These eyes are
drive it
always
home.
watching,
No,
bitch.
hot take. John Larson would have been he, they, but they hadn't invented pronouns in 1990.
They speak like cavemen back then, not to talk about self.
For the sake of not ruining ourselves, Brett is joking.
Yes. Look, as a fellow quirky straight guy, I get it. I get the Jonathan Larson deal. His relationship with his girlfriend, that is very heterosexual, is tumultuous and hard to watch because he does not give her the time of day that she deserves. She's so cool and hot, and it's truly just trying to like love him and have a good relationship.
She seems like a genuinely good partner. Wyatt, your hand is raised.
I disagree. She shows up to the first showcase practice, and she's like, hey, I know the thing that you've been like literally losing sleep over for weeks is happening right now. Can you step away from it to talk about our relationship in a deeply serious context? And he's like, no. And she's like, you're an asshole. And then she also does that. You mentioned that earlier, like right before they're about to have sex. She's like, oh, by the way, I'm moving out of the city.
I got a job offer. I applied for it.
And then she's like, just kidding. I actually got the job. I didn't just apply for it or read the listing. I already have it. So I think, no partner is perfect, and he certainly is so focused on his own thing that he's probably a pretty shitty one too. But I don't think she gets off scot-free either. I think she's
I would agree.
a flawed person, but as is everybody. We're just watching the end stage of a relationship.
I think you're absolutely right. She is certainly in the wrong. That was a bar.
What?
I think you're right. She's in the wrong.
Drake bar.
I do still lean more towards Jonathan is at fault. Granted, the poor guy's under a lot of stress, and I would imagine suffers from anxiety as well, and is like
He-they behavior.
God.
Why is that bad?
Running with it.
Why is that bad? I don't understand what's bad about that. I'm the most aggressively PC person in this house.
Would you not be implying by that statement that trans people
Have
suffer from anxiety?
I feel like they're just more in tune with the fact that they have anxiety. Like straight people on both ends of the spectrum are just like
be having it and don't know.
Yeah, they do that Irish method where you just bottle everything up and throw it on the
And
shelves,
drink.
like John Mulaney says, and then you like kill yourself in the shed. I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing. Keep going.
All right, fair enough.
It's out of
You've
control.
completely derailed my thought.
Look, John Larson needed to make some amount of time to
Yes,
talk about this very important
exactly.
thing because, like, she needed it. She needed her boyfriend.
Yeah, other than the...
And she made that very clear.
She
What
made
she
that very
needed.
clear. Oh,
did
my
also-
point was...
Go ahead.
I'm going to say it because I will forget if you bring up your point. God damn it, say your point.
He also
This is I haven't taken my ADHD medication today. This is what happens to me.
there's also that point where he's trying to write the song and she's calling him from outside of his apartment and she's like, I see you, and he's still not on the phone. And I think that's a little ridiculous of him, but I'm hoping I stalled long enough that the point is back in your head.
You did, and I was writing it down.
There you go.
She has to go out of her way. The bring it up right before sex, I think, was just straight up a bad move. She
Yes.
was not in. That was uncalled for. But like when she shows up at his work, yeah, it's not like a super classy thing to do. But also we see like 4 other instances where she's showing up at his house and she's calling him and she's trying to connect with him, and it doesn't seem to matter what she does. Like
It wasn't her first choice to show up at work.
whether he's working or at that moment or not, she can't reach him. And it almost felt like I know this is wrong, and he knows that I would know this is wrong. Maybe by me making this big gesture of like, I'm showing up at your work because I need an answer. Like that gesture is like, listen, this is serious. Like we need to have this conversation, whether it's right now or in the future. Like you need to make time for me. So like, yeah, she definitely shouldn't have shown up at his work, but also this poor girl is just so desperate to get something out of her partner. And like, even if it's just a, hey, I don't want you to leave, which she mentions at the end. She needs something from him, and he's so obsessed with everything that's going on in his life that he's not giving her anything. And go ahead.
Sometimes I forget. This is actually, no, finish your point because this is going to derail.
No, I was kind of going to get into some larger scale thoughts. So go ahead.
Anytime we watch a movie that has like follows the concept of like the obsessed artist, which I forget is like a whole, like there's a sect of movies that are all under that general theme. But because I watched Whiplash first of that category, anytime anybody does a thing where they're like too focused and then like lose a significant other, I'm like, hey, is this like Whiplash? Like over and over. I've seen like 20 movies where I'm just like, hey, this is like Whiplash. And I don't think about it for anything else. I don't think, oh, this is like La La Land. I'm just like, this is like the point in Whiplash when Miles Teller breaks up with his movie theater girlfriend.
Have you seen the meme that's like, guy who's only ever watched Boss Baby watches another movie and is like, this is just like Boss Baby.
Like Boss Baby.
Yes. Me with Whiplash.
Information about the relationship situation. She is considering moving to the Berkshires, which is about 3 hours away from Manhattan.
Depending on where in the Berkshires you're going. Is
that a mountain range?
Yeah, it's west. It's like
I'll probably be up in that joint.
It's
soon.
tall.
Mountains are tall.
I'm gonna say,
like, stop me when I get there.
Vermont. It's that region, I believe.
How
I could
tall?
be totally wrong.
How tall?
About yay big.
Okay.
Depending on the size of the map you're looking at.
Mm.
The point that I was going to make, if I can remember it. Ah, God, I really should have taken my meds today. So the relationship that Jonathan has with his girlfriend is the piece of the ticking that is given the second most play besides the play itself that he's writing. Some great word play on my part right there. I'm spitting. But I really do think that it is exemplative sort of how I specifically, and like where my own relation to this movie comes from. It's exemplative of like how we can get so singularly focused on something that we are striving to do that, I mean, I think both of you can relate to me in that, like, we're all very impassioned people with a lot of versatile interests. But with me personally, it can become very easy to get wrapped up in one of those and kind of push things aside. And that has hurt my own relationships in the past. And I feel like what both Jonathan Larson and in turn Lin Manuel Miranda did with this story, I feel like they captured that in a really unique way. Like, I've never seen that feeling put into the context of something as fun as a musical. And like, frankly, we haven't talked a lot about the music yet. The music here is really fun. Like, when I first listened to this, or when I first watched this movie, I had multiple songs from this stuck in my head for a very long time. I think this album showed up like 3 or 4 of the songs from this album were all near the top of my like top 100 most listened to songs on Spotify in 2021. So it's like a really interesting contrast. It's not like the musical element isn't working together with the plot in the same way that it is in La La Land. It's almost a contrast. I'm not explaining it as well as I'd like to, but Brett, it looked like you had something to say.
I was just getting lost in your eyes.
That happens.
My first reaction to the music is not necessarily fun, but there's a lot of fun songs. Like Bohemia is really fun. It's like we mentioned it earlier. It's one of my favorites. It's so daunting, the situation that we follow John Larson go through, that like that manifests through his music. That it's really big and brash at times. Like the rock arrangements are very captivating to me.
I love a rock musical. I have not mentioned that yet.
Oh yeah, really. And I also wanted to say shout out female bassists. She was holding it down the whole time. never gets actually like
What?
There's a female bassist.
There's a girl playing bass in John's band
who rocks out the whole time. She's awesome. Rocking the 5-string, we all love.
As you do.
No, I do not actually.
Oh, are you on a 4-string?
I'm on a 4-string, yeah.
I thought the amount of strings determined what it was. Like as a, I don't know. You'd think I would.
They're
because
like 12-string guitars.
My dad plays everything, but none of that was passed down to me. He stole all the talent for himself.
It's unimportant to the conversation, but I do want to fill you in on how that particularly works later because it's a topic that's important to me personally.
Isn't that the difference between like a lute and a mandolin? Is the amount of strings?
I can't speak to neither lutes nor mandolins. I'm sorry.
Regardless, the music, it conjures a lot of feelings along the spectrum, and fun is one of them.
Do we want to? I thought we would change. There aren't really many like. One of our categories is like best scene, worst scene, or our favorite scene, least favorite scene. There aren't many specific like set pieces in this movie that I think really stand out. Most of the scenes are songs. So if we want to do like our favorite song, least favorite song, or maybe a top 3 favorite songs, or a bottom 3 favorite songs. Wyatt, you haven't mentioned the music yet. Maybe you hated it. Brett, do you want to go first?
I want to go first, but have you been looking over my shoulder, seeing this texting situation?
No, I don't know what's going on.
I'm looping my Instacart shopper in on the podcast.
What the hell?
What are you saying?
We're doing live marketing to get one more viewer.
Let's go.
Wait, what?
I was like, because normally they don't say anything after they dropped off the order, but they were talking about like how brutal the Target lack of items situation was. So I was like, you got a shout out on the podcast, hoping that he or she would be like, let me listen. And now we got one more person looped in to the ecosystem.
If you're listening,
Thanks,
Instacart
podcast guy.
shopper or gal.
That guy's non-gendered.
That's a good
capacity.
point. No, I would agree with that.
So the point that we're at it now is them saying, what's your podcast? And I'm about to send a Spotify
Let's
link.
go. Thank you for listening if you're here.
All right. You're on song duty, or do you want me to do that while you...
You go
circle
ahead.
back to me. I'm Daddy's doing business.
My favorite song is the Happy Birthday song from the beginning, the first song of the movie.
Great take.
I
This guy's got
am
taste.
indifferent on the rest, except for I think the pool song is bad.
Yeah, I would
But
agree.
the music just appears on the bottom of the... Like, I get the purpose where he's like, God, I got to do something to get my mind off this, and that's the moment when it all clicks. But that song is basically like, I'm swimming, and I'm swimming, and I'm swimming, and here's a diagram of me swimming, and it's bad.
Yeah, with that scene in particular, I agree. That's also my least favorite song. The idea of like, I'm going to turn to this other thing, and it's going to help, like hyper fixating on this thing can help clear my creative block. I think that is a thing that most creative people have experienced, but this song is just far too in detail about the mechanisms of swimming. And I'm not that interested in it. It's also just, even if it were that, I just don't think it's a particularly catchy song compared to some of the others.
You got to let him respond first. You can't just plug the podcast like that. That's embarrassing.
No, it's too late. It's been plugged.
Wyatt, I agree. 3090 is my favorite song. But the closer, which, again, cannot remember the name of it, is some heat. I've listened to
Words.
Louder Than Words. I've listened to both
David
of
Bednar
them.
of the Pittsburgh Pirates.
I've listened to both of those songs many, many times. Brett, do you have a favorite song or least favorite song?
Yeah, Louder Than Words is my favorite song. The lyrics,
Hose Mad?
no. White was consistently asking for a hose mad climax at the end of the song. God, how does Louder Than Words go?
The Hose Mad needle drop was in the credits, but Wyatt got up and left right after the credits rolled.
Cages or wings? Which do you prefer? Ask the birds. Damn it, it gets me every single time. I love it.
I don't
Love it.
I don't like that line because what are the birds going to tell me?
They're going to say,
Oh, God. That's It's the second
loud noises.
It's the second loud noise that was not even accurate to what it was supposed to imitate that Brett has made in this one recording.
I think that song rocks. It's so good.
It's a good song.
The arrangement is really good, where it all comes out and it just has the chorus.
Yes, when it pulls back.
Yeah, so good. And my other favorite is Therapy, which is the fight song. So interesting to me. Like one of the most memorable songs of the movie. And I hate to keep shitting on it, but Swimming is not very good.
Yeah.
And Sunday is also not very good.
Yeah, every time I'm listening to this album, I skip Sunday and Swimming. Those
Sunday
are the songs that
gave
I skip.
me PTSD because that was my day yesterday at the fair when we were a person down on a Mother's Day Saturday or Mother's Day weekend Saturday, and it was just like you saw a line to the door and you had two people alongside you, and it's like
you just cry.
Inshallah, we beat this rush.
You know what else I don't rock with is Johnny Can't Decide.
Oh, really?
I don't love that one.
That's fair. I like that song, but I get it. I did have a favorite like non-musical scene, and we haven't mentioned really. This movie is like pretty funny at a lot of points. I think the funniest scene is the what are they called? The focus group scene, where I almost said Andrew, where John is like desperate for money to get the full band that he wants for his showcase. So he goes to this like marketing focus group where they're trying to come up with a name for a new product. And this is something that Jonathan could be really good at if he chose to, quote, sell out and use his creative genius to make jingles.
Damn you business majors.
Yeah, that's me. The scene's just really funny.
Shout out dominating a focus group. The way the man just goes in and takes charge. Me and Bryce have this competitive nature that I feel like this is a wet dream for us to go in and be like, oh yeah, all eyes on us.
And it's so.
Are you being real right now?
A wet dream. No, I mean, I mentioned
like love to dominate a focus group.
Absolutely.
So I even mentioned that in the moment where. So this movie is pretty hyperbolic at a lot of points. This scene is so over the top and ridiculous. I cannot imagine in reality it was like this at all. But Jonathan says like certain like moderately creative things, and in this like retelling of the story, every single person in this focus group is like, "Oh my God, you're a genius!" And that kind of validation, I think Brett and I both crave. It would be really cool to
toxic trait, but yes.
Yes. Brett, I think you segued well into our brand new category that we're unveiling for this episode. That's quick shout out. There was a bit early on in this movie where I had a thought. I was like, quick shout out this thing. And I was like, that would make a fun little podcast category. So we're gonna rapid fire some quick shout outs from this movie that will likely make no sense if you haven't seen this movie. Wyatt, you don't have written down notes? Do you have any from memory?
I'm just going to go for it. Quick shout out the AIDS crisis.
Oh my God.
You were out of control.
Canceled. Cut that mic.
I don't mean like it happened and we need to remember that. And it's really depressing that a whole generation of people are gone. And then the Reagan administration's response to it was awful too.
Yeah. I think...
You really Kid Cudi the first one.
I think you say nothing but good points. But God damn it, you missed the point of
my
quick
first shout out was going to be Hamilton. Motherfucker said the AIDS crisis.
Oh, God.
Keep going.
All right, this is the quick shout out that made me want to start this this category. That's quick shout out being a straight man calling your gay roommate Pookie. And I also don't know if you noticed, his gay roommate calls him Boo Boo. So they are a straight and gay man not in a relationship together who are just great friends who call themselves Pookie and Boo Boo.
Love it.
I love that.
You guys are doing too much talking for quick shout out. You need to go faster.
That's my bad. Hit it.
Shout out clapping first at the end of a musical performance. Just getting right in there.
Quick shout out prison barges, which are a thing that still exist in New York City.
Keep going. I have to remember.
Shout out singing for pussy, which is a real line.
That's a real line in this movie. Very good one. Quick shout out jingle writing, because whoever did the Folgers jingle is an absolute genius. And I feel like some real creative people threw away their passions to write commercial jingles.
Quick shout
Mainly
out,
the Folgers guy.
quick shout out, stealing your girlfriend's jacket when you're cold.
That's some shit all three of us would do.
Quick shout out, basic rhyme schemes.
Quick shout out, wealthy girls' legs.
Quick shout out, slapping a dude on the heel because he's swimming too slow in front of you.
Quick shout out, waking up every day just to fumble your hot girlfriend.
Oh my god, he really did that. Quick shout out. This one might be my favorite. Chubstitute.
Huge.
Oh no, I take it back. I've got one more. Quick shout out. Your cat watching you poo.
Yes.
All right.
That concludes quick shout out. I hope you enjoyed
Round
that.
of applause for quick shout out.
Very nice.
Quick shout out. Quick shout out.
Quick.
Quick shout out. Does anyone want to get ribs tonight?
That's not a bad idea.
Quick shout out, I ate already.
Let's
Quick shout
close
out.
this
It's
podcast.
fucking 5. What?
It is certainly not 5
Well,
p.m.
we've been in this room since like.
It is 9:02 p.m. I wish our audio listeners could see the look of
on
terror
Wyatt's
that Wyatt
face.
just made.
Where are we gonna get ribs at this hour?
I don't know if we're gonna.
Everything in Pittsburgh closes at 7.
Yeah,
Wait.
and on a Sunday, it's extra bad.
We're gonna have to go to like Apple a B.
They do have ribs at Le B. Let's give our closing thoughts.
Be more present in the moment. Sometimes you think your issues are bad, then you find out your friend Michael has AIDS. And that's not good. And you need to be more aware of the fact that there are issues going on outside of your own, however large they may feel in the moment. You got to be present in other people's lives too. Tick Tick Boom was a movie I watched with my friends.
That's true.
And, I can't say enough about that. And I recorded a podcast about it too. I couldn't tell you the names of more than 2 characters in this movie. I almost fell asleep like 6 times.
Steven Sondheim is one of them.
I thought he wrote this movie until halfway through, and they were like, Steven Sondheim is here to watch this. And I was like, what a dick putting himself in the movie. Then I thought, oh, never mind.
The
You
dick
guys told
did
me.
put himself in the movie.
That's fair. Wait, but you said he was uninvolved.
Lin
Not-
Manuel Miranda
that's
put
true.
himself in the movie.
Yeah.
That's true. If you like musicals, I'm pretty certain you'll like Tick Tick Boom. If anything I said on the podcast today was too far,
Formal apology.
Get it
I
out now.
formally apologize. Please send me an Instagram DM with your criticisms, concerns, and how I can improve as a person. I will not take your advice. That is my all.
If you want to do that anyways, despite his insistence that he won't take your advice.
It'd be
Check
funny.
out our bio.
I would love to get those. Love to get those on Lasso The Moon Pod on
No.
Instagram.
Your personal account is in the description for this episode.
That's true. That's true.
Message that guy directly. I don't want to hear about it.
Send it to my employers.
My final thought is movie good, Andrew Garfield good.
This is the second time.
Never stop grinding your your outreach to get your Instacart shoppers onto your podcast.
That can be a lesson learned if we find out that they actually listen to this
We'll
podcast.
see what happens.
Is that it? That's your.
That's
You
it.
like this movie? You don't have anything
I
else
really
to say
do,
about it?
but I'm pretty checked out right now.
All
I'm
right,
not gonna
fair
lie to you.
This movie, I really like it. It's flawed. That being said, it was still my second favorite movie of 2021. Granted, not the best year for movies, but I mean, this is a movie I've returned to multiple times now. It's a really enjoyable watch, and it honestly, like, not so much today, but there are moments in here that I feel are like pretty successful in their emotional beats. Jonathan Larson was a very, very important person because he wrote Rent. I don't love Rent personally. It just doesn't really work for me. I like a lot of the music, but I don't love a lot of the characters. But
I don't like paying it.
that's a major theme in the musical Rent. Rent, in a lot of ways, like, saved musical theater. Like, it completely changed the course of musical theater. It had a huge hand in opening a lot of blind eyes towards what people living this lifestyle, that being like the bohemian artist, struggling artist lifestyle in New York City and around the United States, were experiencing. And I really love seeing the story of how a person could be so inspired to come up with such an impactful piece of art. I think that, again, this movie's not perfect, but I love the central characters, and I love Andrew Garfield's performance of the main character, and the music is awesome. I listen to it all the time. Check out the album if you haven't before. This movie's a really good time. Check it out if you haven't already.
One last thing before we go. Before this podcast started, I asked Juliet to give me a list of 3 words to use in this podcast out of context.
Wow, Juliet is Wyatt's girlfriend.
She is. She rocks. Do you guys have any idea what they were?
Absolutely no idea.
Yeah, I killed it. They were, one, I got lucky. One was pool. One was scallion.
Nice. When did you use scallion?
I asked you guys if you would eat the diner food.
I remember this. I thought it was
well
odd that
well
he
done.
said scallion out of nowhere.
And then penguin.
When did
Do
you
not
use
remember penguin.
I talked about him being all bundled up like a little
Like a
penguin.
little penguin. Well done. I'm going to shake your hand for that.
Let me shake his hand.
Impressive.
It's really fucking hot in here,
Three-way.
so my hands
Yeah,
just
I'm
really
pretty warm.
sweaty.
My AC is not working very well. We're going to end this here.
Goodbye and good night. I'm going to go
Whoa,
find
whoa,
ribs.
whoa, I got to do the outro. Turning to the audience, thank you very much for listening. We really appreciate the support. Wyatt is yelling into his mic for no reason. We really appreciate the support. Can't express that enough. This podcast is a lot of fun for us. We would probably do it if no one listened. So the fact that people listen and support us really means more than we can express. Thank you very much. If you want more of Lasso the Moon, follow us on Instagram at LassoTheMoonPod, and you will get immediate updates whenever we release new episodes. You will also see my very intentionally shitty Photoshops. They're a lot of fun. We also occasionally share some personal stuff on there. We should do that more. I think people would like that. Anytime the boys are doing stuff together.
Like getting ribs after this
Getting ribs
podcast.
after recording a podcast. Thank you again for listening. We love you. I would Lasso the Moon for you. We hope you would do the same for us. Good night.
Good night.
Bohemian.